स्वागत करून तुम्ही मग जो गौरव केला ताचे खातीर हांव अगदी कृतज्ञ आसा. जाल्यारय हांगा बसून हांगा ह्या समारंभांत उलयतना आय फील नर्वस, सर्टन अमाउंट ऑफ नर्वसनेस ताका मस्तेचं कारण आसा ती एक म्हळ्यार आतां थंय आमी जे कोंकणी उलयतना आयकल जे वक्तव्य आयकल्या ते वक्तव्य म्हज्यान ना कल्याक म्हळ्यार अभ्यास ना. मस्ती वर्स जाली कोंकणी म्हगेली मातृभास खरी जाल्यारय हांव पब्लीक स्पीचीसांतून कोंकणी उलोवलो अभ्यास तें एक कारण. दुसरें कारण म्हळ्यार हांव आतां सांगलें म्हळ्यार हांव हांगा कन्नड लेखक म्हणून उबो आसा आनी भारतीय कोंकणी साहित्य संमेलनांत खरेंच हांव कोंकणी लेखक म्हणून आसलेली हे चड आनंद जाता आशिल्ली. पुंडलीक नायक हाणें म्हळ्यार की आतां वचून हांव सूर कोरता म्हणून ताणें म्हणना पूण म्हाका दिसलें फाल्यां दोन परूंच्या सूर कोरता कोंकणींत अजुनूय कांय वेळ जालें. अजुनूय कितले 75 वर्स जालें मात्र त्यामुळे कांय अजुनूय टायम भरपूर आसा. तरी हांगा पयलें हांव एक सांगता तें म्हळ्यार खंय हांव उलयतना अडखळून हांव इंग्लिशान सूर केल्यार तुमी म्हाका क्षम करता. बट इट मे बी बेटर फ्रॉम युअर पॉयंट ऑफ व्यू इफ आय स्पीक इन इंग्लिश कित्याक म्हळ्यार बोथ माय कोंकणी एज वेल एज माय स्पीच मे बी प्रॉब्लेमॅटीक. हांव पयलीं एक उत्तर पयलीं सांगूंक सोदता त्या म्हळ्यार हांव हांगा येवचें कारण म्हाका कोंकणी साहित्य संमेलन आशिल्लें की म्हाका कसलोय अधिकार ना म्हणून दिसलो कित्याक हांव कोंकणींत बरयलें, कोंकणींत बरोवशिल्लें, कन्नडांत बरयलें. हांगा येवचें एक कारण म्हळ्यार अरविंद भाटेकरान इन्वायट केलें आज. आमी दोगूय जाणां 4 वर्सां फ्रॉम 54 to 58 कर्नाटक कॉलेजींत सांगाती आशिल्लें आनी अरविंदाक हांव एक वचनांत उलयत न्हू बहुवचन काय न्हू बहुवचन तोंडां येना कित्याक आमी सांगाती मस्तींतलें केलें त्या वेळार तरी ताणें यो म्हूण सांगलें. हांव म्हळें चला वचून कसलें जाता ताणें तरी पळोवन पयल्या मस्त वर्स जाली भेटनी ताक भेटनी तेका बायले भेटनी एक तर फॅमिली ट्रीप करुया म्हणून व्हेला. आनी एक दृश्टीन हांगा येवन सुद्दां एक म्हगे दृश्टीन एक फॅमिली ट्रीप अशें म्हणून सांगता. कसल्याक म्हळ्यार हांव विसरलो माथेरानांत हांव वाडलो कन्नडांत बरयता हें सगळें वय जाल्यारय म्हगे फॅमिली कुलदैवत हांगाची कवडे शांतादुर्गा आनी हांगा तेणी गोंय सांगता अत्यंत निकट संबंध आसा आमी आतां आसता ती आतां गेली कित्याक म्हाका देवाचेर विश्वास उरला कुलदेवतांचेरय विश्वास उरला आनी सगळ्या देवतांचेर विश्वास उरला म्हणून सांगूंक वाटता. बट जाल्यार तो एक संबंध सांस्कृतीक संबंध तरी आसच. आनी हांवें फॅमिली हांगा 16th century सुमार सावथ वचूंक आसता अलॉंग द कोस्ट वचून कार्नाड म्हणून नांव मंगळूर लागीं आसा. उडपी लागीं कार्नाड म्हणून गांव आसा. तरी आमगे फॅमिली हांगा वचून कार्नाड वचून थंय तांकां की जॉब जाय म्हणून धारवाड वचून धारवाडांतून थंय हांव कन्नड शिकून कडेन मराठी म्हगेलो बापूचो बॉम्बे हांतू मेडिकल सर्विसांत डॉक्टर आशिल्लो कडेन हांव महाराष्ट्रा वचून थंय मराठी शिकलो. हें सांगूंक कारण केलें म्हळ्यार म्हज्या जनरेशनाक त्या वेळार पर्टिक्युलरली 1956 पयलीं जें जनरेशन आसा भाशावार प्रांतांतल्यान जावचे पयले हो अनुभव अगदी इजी आशिल्लो. खंय खंय वचूंक गेले खंय खंयची भास शिकलो. कोंकणी म्हणून घरची भास आशिल्ली पळय हांव आनी अरविंदो आनी त्या वेळार धारवाड आय मस्ट से धारवाड एक कोंकणी म्हणून एक वातावरण असलें ताचें कारण गोंयकार आशिल्ले. गोंयांत जे स्टुडंट्स येताले त्याच क्रिएट करताले. प्रोफेसर महाले आशिल्लो. प्रोफेसर महाल्यान कोंकणी ते एक डिपार्टमेंट न्ही केलें. तो फ्रेंच शिकयतालो जाल्यार कोंकणीचेर भयंकर आस्त आशिल्ली. आमी सगळे तांकां काम करताले आनी तांचे मितीन त्या वेळार जे आशिल्ले अरविंद आशिल्लो शशिकला बांदोडकर आशिल्ली वर्लिंदर त्या वेळार बांदोडकर आशिल्ली त्या कडेन काकोड करताले. हांचे मितीन कोंकणी सांगाती तो एक संबंद उरलो आनी त्या वेळार विचार करलो. इन दोज डेज वी यूज टू वरी की कोंकणीचें कशें जावचें फावो सांगू कित्याक म्हाका बरोवंक कळना दिसतालें. हांव कन्नडांत बरयतालो, मराठींत वाचतालो, इंग्लिशांत करतालो. प्रॉब्लेम कशें आशिल्लें म्हळ्यार कन्नडांत बरोवचें इट सीम्ड अ पॉसिबिलिटी. रायटींग इन इंग्लीश सीम्ड अ पॉसिबिलिटी. Writing in Marathi seemed a possibility. The writing in Konkani in those days to me didn't seem a possibility at all. at all. Because त्यावेळा कसले शब्द कोंकणी म्हळ्यार it's a dialect of Marathi. This was the standard उपभाषा ती उपभाषा कितले म्हणून बरोवन चलता म्हणून. So what is the difference between one day I was talking to my professor and I said, what is the difference between a dialect and a language? And he said, language is a dialect with an army. If you have the army, you can turn a dialect into a language. And this, as Ramanand said, that this is before 1956. Well, army now we don't have to think about, but what he means was power, government power, state power. So after 1956, भाषावर प्रांत रचन जायना पडे, भारताचे पुरा रचन जायना पडे, then Konkani got a kind of going, तरी एक संबंध create झालो, हे एक अत्यंत आनंदाचे आहे असं. आम्ही डिस्कस करताना that was not a possibility. And we didn't know which way to go. And एक दृष्टीने कोंकणी बरोवंक म्हणून दिसलें नाही. आम्ही कन्नड अधिकारांच केलें, मराठी अधिकारांच केलें, विंगड अधिकारांच केलें. आता कन्नडान बरोवन सुद्धा it was not an easy. Even today it's not an easy thing because in 1956 Tungutuska, the whole of India was united into on linguistic basis. I mean, each state was made on a linguistic basis. The only state which was united was Karnataka. Because until then, Karnataka was in 4 parts. There was one part which is a part of Bombay state, one part which is a part of Madras, one part which was the old Mysore state, the third part which was a part of Hyderabad. As a result, Kannada also suffered a great deal. And we didn't know, at Kannada Malari, खंच कन्नड उलोवंक खंच कन्नडान बरोवंक हें सुद्दां मस्त प्रयत्न करूं शकता पण म्हाका तर ते आनीक प्रयत्न करता पण जाल्यार मुगल मातृभाशा कन्नड नाशिल्ली मुगल मातृभाशा कोंकणी आशिल्ली ते सुदैवान केल्लें म्हळ्यार हांगा आमचें की आत्मचरित्र सांगता ताचे बद्दल क्षम करता आय वॉज व्हेरी लकी हांव कर्नाटकांत तूं वाडल्यार सुद्दां आय वॉज व्हेरी लकी दॅट माय फादर वॉज अ डॉक्टर इन सिर्सी इन दोज डेज वॉज अ व्हेरी बॅकवर्ड टावन. And there was money if you had a arecanut plantation, otherwise there was no money. And he was a government doctor and a government hospital, it was right next to the Catholic church. There was the Catholic church on one side and the government doctor on the other side. And we were right in the middle of the entire Catholic settlement of Sirsi. It was not a very rich community, it was a very poor Catholic community. And I grew up there. The Catholic community. So, Tansangat Prarthana Vatala, Mahavan Magal Bhayani, we have seen hundreds of Catholic funerals and hundreds of weddings, more funerals and weddings than probably Hindu weddings and funerals. Because Angal Ghara is a great church, and I still remember, it was such a person, Mughal Sana Bhayani, Mughal Sana Bhayani, 3 ki 4 वर्षाचे असका, आम्ही Catholic church पहिली पण सुगलतोडे, तिने Jesus Christ तिने वणकेर पडलेलो, ते रगत येता लुगतात गो. आणि ती म्हणाली, अरे Jesus Christ रगत येता असं, तरी आम्ही बाप्पाला कापून घेऊन वचूया. My father was a doctor. So her first reaction was to say, let him take him and show it to father. So he will know what to do with it. So this kind of growing up, it was not something that I grew up later, but as a part of growing up. And when I was about 14, 15 years old, my father retired, and then we transferred to another part of Sirsi. And this is an entirely Gaud Saraswat area. And so the whole linguistic culture changed. The whole and त्यावेळारी म्हाका दिसता खंय आमकां ह्या लेखान कॅथलीक हाकाय ना थंय लेखान Gaud Saraswat लँग्वेजाचे संबंध न्ही कसल्या म्हणून जाल्यार आत्ता. Now when I have achieved something in literature with sheer hard luck, I am so grateful that I was related to Konkani through these 2 cultures, Catholic culture and through Gaud Saraswat culture, because what one heard was oral literature, and one realized at that point the richness of oral literature. When one talks of literature, one only talks of written literature. बरें मात्र साहित्य म्हणून म्हणतात ते. Oral जे आसा, मौखिक परंपरा जी आसा, मौखिक परंपरान तो it may be अंगाई गीत असो फाव आसा, किंवा लाले बायला सुपाव आसा, लग्ना वेळार बायला म्हणतात ते गितान तो दळच वेळार बायलान म्हणची पद. There are hundreds of songs, and I was very lucky that I heard them in Konkani, and I imbibed them. And now, as I grow older, I think of them. My only regret, really, is that because I turned towards Kannada literature, I could not make use of these impressions, these cultural impressions. I had to rediscover them all over again in Kannada. In that sense, I do feel truncated. And this, I think, is important in reference to what I'm going to say, because I think ultimately what you learn in your mother tongue is what you learn, not what you learn in a second language. You may learn it in Kannada, but Sanskritic impressions they are from Konkani. And it is this Konkani which I grew up, for which I'm grateful. Konkani, which I'm a Saraswat, sort of God Saraswat, but I was not a part of that whole thing. I belong to a very small community of 25,000 people. One of the reasons I didn't write in Konkani was also that mother tongue impressions, cultural impressions, they were more important than anything I learned from Kannada or English or Marathi or anything else from outside. And this is very important, I think, when you are talking of creativity. आणि आता तुम्ही गोंयांत असलेले तुमकां कोंकणीचे हें महत्व लक्षांत घेना कित्याक तुमी म्हणजे भायर आसले भायर सावन कोंकणी पळयले असलेले यू सडनली रियलायज की कोंकणीचे पर्स्पेक्टीव जे आसा कितलो रिच आसा because it spreads along the sea coast. It is in contact and or conflict, whichever way you like it, with so many different languages. Marathi, Kannada, Tulu, Malayalam, probably Arabic, and all of it contributes to Konkani in some ways. When you go there, that you realize. I was delighted to hear now that Kerala has recognized Konkani in terms of a Sahitya Academy, because that has been the greatness of Konkani, I think, that it has gone to different places and it has taken and then it has given to these languages. And this is where, I won't go on because one can go on for this, but this is the point, this is where I want to come to a major point that has been bothering me very much, but I'll give it to you, I'll talk about it in the context of the Kannada. Because in 1991, the skies opened up. The satellite television came. Channels came, everything. And everyone at that time said that this will mean that Western media will take over the whole of India. This will mean that Murdokization of skies will take place, that local languages will die, But this didn't happen. What happened was that all the channels that came out were very often in mother tongues. They were in Hindi or Marathi or Konkani or so on. In Kannada, there are something like 25 channels. I don't know how many there are in local language in Goa. So it has meant that this technology has actually helped the oral culture for it to come up. But on the other hand, there is a danger that's posed by electronic technology as well, which is that everyone feels that the children have to learn English so that the mother tongues are unnecessary. Karnataka, it's become a very major problem that everyone wants to send their children to English medium schools. And there is a fear, Anand Murthy, the great Jnanpith award writer, has been saying, is Kannada going to die? Will there be this? The problem is not that Kannada is going to die, because this is serious. The problem is, by teaching your children in English, this is what I realized. By teaching them in a second language in English, like English, you may make them great technologists. I'm sure you'll make them great technicians, scientists, so on, but you'll make them very poor thinkers. Because thinking, because whatever thinking you ultimately get in English will be second. It will be borrowed. It hasn't come through your own response to the whole language. And this is why I'm very confused very often when people talk of the language issue. I'll give you again my example from my childhood. I was born in Maharashtra, Mathura, Janmadal. Marathi school also, modern school, Pune. I went there for 4 years. 4 years after my father was transferred to Sirsi. My father took me to a Kannada medium school. Pedalo, Kannada medium school. Kannada yakakina, kind, Tavla central school kind of pedalo. I was supposed to Kannada. I had no option because I had to learn Kannada. I learned Kannada, my younger sister learned Kannada, my whole family learned Kannada. Then we grew up, then we came and in the 4th standard we were told Hindi was compulsory. Fine, we learned Hindi because there was no choice to learn. And then of course English was a medium and so on. What is amazing in the present discussion? So I know 6 languages, I can tell you. 5 languages, I can this, and I'm very proud of it. But this I didn't learn. It was just something that I picked up on the way. And in all the discussions on education that goes on today, what amazes me is why everyone thinks that children are stupid. There is a feeling that they can only learn one language. Why can't you teach them mother tongue and second language? I don't understand that. Why should it be difficult? I personally believe that unless you teach the children in their mother tongue, whether it's Kannada or Konkani or wherever it is, they will not develop thinking capacity. It's not possible. But on the other hand, it is not essential to think that they should think only in that language. I was very lucky that I learned Marathi, I learned Hindi and so on. And this actually increases. In fact, this whole notion that that language of instruction, the whole notion of language of instruction, that children can learn in only one language really comes from Europe. Because our ancestors all knew 2 languages easily. They knew Marathi and Konkani, or they knew Kannada and Konkani. They knew, the one language was in business language, one language was home language, and there is total comfort with languages, which is gone, and now it's become so obsessive that people feel that you have to have English, otherwise something will happen to the children. Well, what will happen to the children? It doesn't bear thinking, but this raises thousands of problems of which I won't go into, but one question is, if you are taught English, this is a problem that I know from my own children who went to a Kannada medium school with English, is that English will always be taught by people who have been taught English second hand and therefore always learn bad English. Instead of learning good Konkani and good thinking in Konkani, they will learn bad English and spend most of their time worrying, should there be a definite article there? Should there be an indefinite article here? As though that is what matters in a language. That's not what matters in a language. If you are born to a language, you will learn to think of it. And in English, I still have difficulties with the definite language, the definite article. I don't know whether to use it in the or not. And as you can see, I can express myself in English. It's not that I'm aphasic or I'm not without. I think it should be possible in any intelligent, in any cultured educational system. Like in Scandinavians, you should meet the Scandinavians. They're all paka in their mother tongue and they also speak very good English. They were all read English. So except that you have to give the basic strength in a language. The temptation of English is so much that if you don't give your children that basic strength while they're young, they will never come to it. They will always be attracted to English and go away. And from my own experience and my experience with my children, I have always felt that this is the relationship of languages that we should adopt in our education. Sorry, this is not what I was asked to come here to speak. I was not asked to come here as an educationist or on speaking on Kannada or English, but because I have been through so many languages, it's something that I felt would be relevant to say instead of just saying the nonsensical things that one always says anyway. So let me say again, Konkani परिषद कोंकणी साहित्य सम्मेलन तुम सगळ्यांका नमस्कार.